Shall I start, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, madam.
Education is not the learning of facts, but training of the mind to think. A very good evening to one and all present here. I, Namrata, student of University Law College, Bangalore University, consider it my honor to be the master of ceremony for this session. It is my honor to introduce the interactive session by Ms. ALMAS SHAIKH on the topic, Pursuing Higher Legal Education Outside India, Scope and Career. Now, I request Sri Purushottam ji, an advocate and founder secretary of Vidit Pragna, Karnataka Legal Services NGO, to render the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, madam. So, thank you one and all for joining with us today evening. Respected Professor Dr. Suresh Nadagowda sir, respected speaker Ms. ALMAS SHAIKH, respected Muhammad Usman Sheikh sir, who is our proud senior advocate from High Court of Karnataka, and I invite all the dignitaries over the dais, and I thank for the opportunity given by the University Law College, Bangalore University, and I thank all the students who are joined over here, and I thank all the members, faculty, staffs of the University Law College. And this is my second privilege, as the college authorities had given me an opportunity. This time, not as a speaker. This time, I'm from the Vidit Pragna Karnataka Legal Services NGO. I'm hosting the program. So, as such, Section 2, Class 1, Subclass D of the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, which explains about what exactly human rights means. Human rights means it's a right, it's a freedom to life, it's a freedom as well as a right to liberty, freedom to equality and dignity. So which is enshrined in the Constitution of India, and which is enforceable by the courts of in India. So as such, today's speaker, Ms. ALMAS SHAIKH, is a deserving candidate and a participant. She has completed her LL.M degree from the International Human Rights, and she has completed her LL.M from the Geneva, Switzerland, and she is pursuing her doctoral research, Ph.D. in the University of Oxford, England. So that is most kind of a highest degree, so in a legal education system, so as per my understanding. So in this juncture, so we had an opportunity and we had a privilege to hear Ms. ALMAS SHAIKH regarding with the scope and career of pursuing higher legal education outside India, and particularly she is focusing upon the human rights career, as she is being the international human rights lawyer. As I have observed, she is a very studious person, and she always keen to work upon these human right issues, intersectionality. That's a very good concept to understand the concept of the human rights in every other perspective, like poverty, caste, discrimination, apartheid, each and every aspect she is working upon that. And she's a kind of a research scholar, and she has done her kind of a practice in the Center for Research, so which is in Bangalore. So I welcome madam, I welcome Dr. Suresh Nadagowda sir, Muhammad Usman Sheikh sir, and all the faculties over here, okay. Satish sir, Dashrath sir. So thank you very much, and I thank one and all who are here in the meeting today. So I over to ALMAS SHAIKH madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you for joining with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I consider it my privilege and honor to introduce the speaker for today's interactive session, Ms. ALMAS SHAIKH. Ms. ALMAS SHAIKH is a human rights lawyer from India, currently pursuing her DPhil law from the University of Oxford. She is a graduate of LL.M in International Law Program at the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies, Geneva. Ma'am also possesses Bar Council qualification to practice in India and has worked in dispute resolutions. Nationally, she has work experience as a litigation lawyer in High Court and Supreme Court on issues of trans rights, caste matters, and constitutional law. Additionally, she has been involved in grassroots level and high-level advocacy on legislations of human interest and its implementations. Internationally, she has worked with the UN International Law Commission, a security sector organization in Geneva, and also with the David School of Government at the University of Oxford. Her research includes anti-discrimination laws, intersectionality, gender laws, and human rights. It is an absolute honor to have you with us, ma'am. I now request you to address the gathering. Over to you.
Hi, can you all hear me? Can you all see me clearly?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Purushottam sir, thank you, and Vidhi Pragna Karnataka Legal Services for giving me this opportunity to be here. Professor Dr. Suresh Naragowda sir and the University Law College Bangalore for giving me the opportunity to be here. And all of the dignitaries, my father for giving me all of the opportunities to be able to be in the place that I am right now. And especially to all of the students who have made themselves present on a Saturday evening. Usually I wouldn't, as a law student, I would not be interested in utilizing my weekends for a professional course, but to see 39 participants who are here, who are interested in human rights career, who are interested in legal career. And thank you so much for giving me an hour of your time today on a weekend. To go forward, a few housekeeping issues. Nanu Kannadallu matadbodu, English allu matadbodu. Tell me whichever is comfortable for you. I am more comfortable in English, but I don't mind speaking in Kannada as well, because I can do that. Nangenadru nan Kannadallu matadakagilla andre, I hope that you all can help me out in some aspects of translation so that we'll be able to access all of the students that are gathered here. Adu one request nan marta irodu. And secondly, I want this to be an interactive session. Nan present madodu, I want it to be only 30 to 40 minutes, and I want to keep most of the time that I present for interactions, for questions. Nimge enadru question idre, doubt idre, please feel free to pause, raise your hands, or unmute and speak and ask me questions, because need questions ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾಗ್ಲೇನೆ I'll understand which area you need help with, and I'll try to address that area. I'll share screen now and we can start presentation. Hopefully you're able to see this.
Yes, madam.
Okay, thank you. So in this presentation, I will be concentrating on how to apply for higher legal education outside of India. This is not saying that there aren't legal education options present within India. There are. JNU, NLSIU, and so many other colleges give LLM and DPhil options within India, and that is pretty comprehensive, pretty concise, and you can pursue it. But for this presentation, I'll be concentrating upon pursuing higher legal education outside of India, because the application process is completely different. It takes a lot of different processes. It takes a lot of references. It takes a lot of internal reflection on what you want to do to be applied to higher legal education outside of India. So this is what I'll be concentrating upon, and I'll concentrate on my human rights career as well within the higher education process. So why do you want to study? Why do you want to go ahead in terms of legal education? Apart from everybody studying here the BA or LLB and gaining the undergraduate degree, it is necessary to go. It is sometimes you feel the need to understand another legal system or to specialize in a particular area of law. law. And this can also be due to intellectual stimulation or the opportunity to develop your knowledge or you understand the law. And it can improve in your career prospects, whether you want to do practice, whether you want to do commercial law, whether you want to do academia, or you want to do government service. All of these can be enriched by having an LLM or a master's outside of India. And these are all the reasons why you may want to do law. So based on that, I will be concentrating on 3 different topics within my presentation. Firstly, it is to identify your interests and to identify the universities. Secondly, how the application process works. And thirdly, working towards a winning profile. So I'll come first to my first part of the presentation, which is identifying interests and identifying universities. Before you apply for an LLM, the process starts way before you apply for an LLM. It is usually a year-long process. You will probably decide third year alirovaga or fourth year alirovaga, you will decide to do an LLM. And that means you'll have to apply or start researching from that point. It takes 2 to 3 years to understand what you want to do, where you want to study, and apply for it. And that is the reason why you need to identify the interest and identify your universities, and that will start your process in applying for an LLM outside of India. So what do I mean by identifying your interests and identifying universities? In different areas of law have different specializations. For instance, if I did international law and international human rights law, I had several options, such as either Cambridge University or Netherlands, University of Netherlands, Leiden University, or Graduate Institute in Geneva, or the Geneva Academy, which gave me very specific specialization in international law and international human rights law. If you're interested in arbitration and commercial law, then Singapore University is well known for it. If you're interested in constitutional law, then the University of Vienna or the Australian University are well known for constitution law. If you are interested in specifically practicing after you do your LLM, then the BCL course in Oxford is well known for that. If you're interested in, let's say, theory of law and understanding it from a theoretical perspective, then some of the American universities such as Harvard or Yale are quite good for that. So you have to understand what area of law you're interested in. And this is not something that you need to do at this point. I know a lot of people who did their LLM immediately after their undergrad studies. So you graduate in, let's say, June or July of this year, and then you start your LLM in September or October, immediately after. So you can either do it that way, or you can work for a year or two, which is what I did, and then you can apply, or you can apply even later. I have seen people with decades of experience applying it later because they know what they are interested in and which area of law they want to learn. So they are coming from a very different perspective. So when I say you have to identify your interests, it does not mean that you have to do it now. If you want to apply for an education immediately, then yes, it's better to start now. But it is not a necessity, and it is completely up to you as to when you want to do, when you want to apply for your education and when you want to carry it out. And that is in terms of the area of law. And once you identify the area of law, you can also identify the universities that you go to. Another way of figuring out which university or which area that you want to concentrate on or which university you want to go to is to look at the faculty. For instance, if you're interested in human rights law, or if you're interested in specific humanitarian law, then the Geneva Academy is pretty good because they have faculty who have been practicing within humanitarian law. So that's why you also understand from a faculty perspective. Or for instance, University of Vienna has, let's say, Professor Michael Weibel, who is well known in the area of arbitration and international investment law. So if you're interested in bilateral trade investment or bilateral investment treaties, and you want to for that, then you can identify that as a university that you want to go to because it has a professor that you want to work under. So here I want to take a step back and talk about how LLM is different from LLB. So in your undergrad, you are given training in all forms of law. And that includes different aspects of law, different areas of law, irrespective of whether you're interested in it or not. Nimge yadral interest ide adral madakke you have chances through optional course, but yella areas of law allo you have to understand and you have to apply and sit for the exam. So that is different in LLM. In LLM, you choose what you want to study. You can choose whether you have to, whether you want to do general law, whether you want to do constitutional law or criminal law or commercial law or human rights law. You choose what you want to do. So when you're also choosing the area of law or the area of faculty or the universities, you don't have to always go for a name brand university. For instance, before I went to Graduate Institute, nobody knew what Graduate Institute was or where Geneva was. But it turned out to be a very important aspect of my human rights career because it allowed me to work in human rights and also at the UN because the UN headquarters is in Geneva, which was one of the reasons I chose. So that could also be an identifying interest. So my area of law was international law and human rights law. And through that, I chose the geographic location, which was Geneva. So these are the areas in which you can choose your interests and the universities that you can go to. So to sum up, you can choose the universities on the basis of your interest in law, your universities which coincide with it, and the faculty that you want to study under. Like I said, there are different ways in which you can choose, and one of that is geographic location. Many universities are in USA, like Harvard or Yale or other Ivy League schools. And the geographic location of UK and Europe is also well known. And then you come to Singapore, Australia. Sorry about the last Mercury being there. That is a typo. So in terms of the geographic location, the way you apply for law schools also differs. For instance, ನೀವು USA apply ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ರೆ there's a lot of tests, LSAT test ಅಂತ ತಗೋಬೇಕು. ಆ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆಮೇಲೆ you have to also apply for TOEFL ಅಥವಾ IELTS, your English language examination. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ USA ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಅಂಡ್ UK, Europe, Singapore, Australia, it is similar. You have to apply using your personal statement, references, degree certificates, and transcripts, all of that. So you have to understand where you're going. ನೀವು USA ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ರೆ you have to quickly go through each of the website for each of the universities and see which university needs what. So most of the application process is same, and we'll come to the application process later, but it is better for you to understand which university it is, go to their specific website and get the primary data from the university itself in terms of how you can apply. So that is in terms of the geographic location. There are many good universities apart from these areas, such as apart from USA, you can even go to South America. There is the University of Peace in Costa Rica, which is by the United Nations. There is within African continent in South Africa, there's the University of Pretoria, which is really well known for its legal education. And it is the home for Dr. Dire Tladi, who's also the member of the International Law Commission. And also there are many universities within Asia, such as Hong Kong. City University of Hong Kong is also well known. And Japan and Tokyo University, as well as South Korea University. All of it depends on what you want to do and which area of law you want to practice on. It seems like I am a broken record, which keeps coming back to what area of law, but that is a very important aspect of this journey, because unless you understand what area of law you want to practice in, you won't be able to make a correct decision. And this is not something that you can decide over one day or 1 week. This is something that you have to take time, and through your internships, through your work experience, you'll understand which areas of law you want to work on, and it can be a gradual process. So when you apply to law school, these are the aspects that you need to look into: the geographic location, as we talked about. And this is something that I came to know recently, whether you want it to be a taught master's course or you want it to be a research master's course. The difference between these two is: a taught master course, you have people coming in and teaching you. A research master course is a 1 or 2 year course in which you do the research. It is like a mini PhD, where instead of you going to classes and learning and writing an exam, you bring your own subject, you bring your own topic, and you write a paper of 30,000 to 50,000 words on that. And this is research master course. And there are quite a few research masters that you can apply. Australia has one. There are quite a few MPhil programs you can search for. And these are all called research masters in philosophy. It's like the DPhil or the PhD, but it's a shorter course for a shorter period of time. And this is also a good way for you to know if you want to do a PhD or a longer period of research. Then you can also consider what sort of work or internship opportunities you will get while you're working in this. For instance, there's the George Washington University, which is in Washington, DC. And people go there if they want to work very closely with the American government or government systems. And because the government is there, there are also a lot of NGOs around which work on human rights or different aspects there, so that they can easily dialogue with the government. So that is a work opportunity that you can go into. I chose Geneva because it had the UN there, and I would get to intern and work at the UN while I was doing my master's. And that was one of the reasons that I chose to work, that I chose the Graduate Institute, because it gave me work or internship opportunities. So that is also a main consideration depending on how you want to go. So for people who are interested in complete research, maybe you would want to look into the university's applications or the university's opportunities for researching with the professor, or being a research assistant or a teaching assistant with the professor. So that is something that also you can look into and figure out whether that you're interested in. And lastly, you can look into the interests that you are going into. What interests you? Which areas of law interest you? What sort of teaching method or experiences interest you? Do you want it to be a completely academic research-based pursuit? Do you want it to be a practice-intensive course? These are all things that you can consider. And like I said, you are choosing where you want to go, you are choosing what you want to do, and you can apply accordingly. And language is a very important consideration. There are some universities which teach in, depending on where you apply, French or German apart from English. So you also need to very carefully consider what universities that you're applying into and whether you can understand that language. If you have interest in learning French, then maybe Graduate Institute is good, because they do give you a French course if you go for the 2-year master's, a free French course, and you have the opportunity to learn there, and some of the classes are also in French. But if you don't want that, you also have the opportunity to learn everything in English. So depending on what your language preferences are and where you want to work, that is also a consideration that you need to take into account. And also definitely look into the funding that is available and what sort of funding is available in different areas of law and different universities. Some universities are very generous with the amount of funding. Some universities are not so generous, and it can be a very non-transparent process. So depending on your financial situation, funding is also a very important consideration. So that is the end of the identifying your interests and identifying the universities. We can now come to the application process, which is understanding how the entire application process goes. So this has three different aspects. And this is, I touched upon this a little bit earlier, which was how do we apply, and you need to go to each university and look into it. But it can be very daunting. If you look at some of the universities and you look at the pages and you look at each of the requirements that they have, it can be a big process. It definitely takes a while to understand everything. So this is something that you need to start working on earlier. The earlier you work on it, the better it is for you. For instance, when I was applying for my master's, it took me a year and a half to understand which universities I want to apply to, why I'm applying to them, and what is the application process. So what can be the application process? So in each university, it is very essential, and I'm looking, this application process that I'm talking about is specifically in a UK European context and what they require, but this can also be applied to other places apart from US, which requires standardized tests. So most universities require some academic basis, which means you should have completed your undergrad degree. You should have your degree certificate that you have gotten the degree. You should have a transcript as well, which shows how much marks you've gotten over the semesters. And it's best if the transcripts also show that your education was in the English language. This is important because most of the universities ask for language certification or language tests. And for that, they either include the TOEFL test or the IELTS test, International English Language Test, or the TOEFL, that's what it's called. And these tests are very difficult to schedule at the last minute unless you already have it. And these tests the results last only for 2 years. Instead, and these also cost a lot. It costs anywhere between 15,000 to 20,000 to apply for the test, take the test, and get the result. So instead, if you can see in your degree certificate and your transcripts, or even a certificate from your college saying my education has been conducted in the English language, that is enough to show that you have your English language certification. Once again, this is not applicable to all universities. You need to go to each university and see what the application process is, but it is quite common that they ask for transcripts, degree certificate, and English language proficiency. So how do you show your proficiency? It can be up to you, whether it can be through a TOEFL test, IELTS test, or an English language certification from the university saying that your education was in English. Apart from the academic requirements, you also need references. So the references can be both academic or professional. So while you are a student and you're applying for it, your academic references can be your teachers, and they have to be your teachers because most of these universities want to know that you will be able to carry out an academic undertaking. And what is the academic undertaking in this regard? The academic undertaking is that you'll be able to learn, you'll be able to do the readings, and you'll be able to apply it in the course that you're going for. So if that is any teacher that you want, that you have a good rapport with, will be able to provide you references. And that can include teacher that you had a good degree of rapport with, or it can include teachers who are in the same, who taught the same course that you wanted to do. So for instance, if you're applying for a master's in commercial arbitration and you had a teacher who taught you arbitration or company law or any other commercial law, business laws, and you can ask the teacher to give you a reference on that issue. Or it can be human rights law, but if you do not have a good rapport with the human rights teacher, maybe you can see connecting areas like criminal law or criminal procedure, and you have teachers who can give you a reference to that, because most of human rights law in India is applied through criminal law. So you can see what academic teachers will be good for you and identify them and also apply to them. essential to know that teachers also have a lot of students asking them for references, and they have a lot of other work too. So it's best if you ask for references quite a bit in advance, 3 to 4 months in advance um, before your application process, and then you can remind them to give in the references. And that is for academic. In terms of professional, it can be the places that you have interned at, or if you have worked at any other place, that can also be a great reference. Mostly for LLM application, they ask for 2 references, both of which should be academic, and you can give extra reference, and that can be a professional reference. So that could be one way of applying for the references. If you think about doing your master's much after you graduate, so for instance, you graduate in 2022 and you want to work until 2023, 2025, then maybe you can also ask the places that you have worked at to give you a reference. And that would be a great way to also show that you're concentrating on which place you worked at and they're giving you a glowing recommendation. So you need to look into what sort of references each school wants. And lastly, and most importantly, is the personal statement. It can be called the personal statement, it can be called an essay, it can be a motivation letter. It's anything, it goes by many names, but it is the most important aspect of your application. And how do you start writing your personal statement? It is a short 1 or 2 page summary that you give of your life. And here you can talk about, once again, I'm concentrating on what your area of law or interest is and what your future career plans based on that. And what this personal statement should do is it should answer like 2 basic questions. Why should the school choose you? And why are you choosing the school? These should be the main questions that you answer. And within these questions, you'll be able to bring in your achievements, your internships, your paper publications, your research scope, your research goals, and your future career goals. All of that will come together in this application and how that's do. So essentially in this personal statement, what you have to do is make them understand that you are necessary. It is necessary for the school to choose you, and that school is necessary for your career, professional, academic development. And these are the ways in which you can sort of look into the application process. And most importantly, you need to be aware of deadlines. For instance, if you're applying for, let's say you have decided right now to apply for LLM in different places outside of India. So you need to understand that if you're right now in December, then the application process for next year for Cambridge and the process to be considered into the funding or the scholarship application for graduate university has passed. It was in early November or November 15th, but you still can apply to a few other colleges whose deadline is in January 20. And then there are the last college, a few other colleges which look into rolling applications. But if you do not want to consider the funding application or the funding or scholarship deadline, then you can go into March or April as well. So it is very necessary for you to be aware of deadlines. And the best way you can do it is it is easy to go on Google and search LLM applications online, and then from a third party website, you're getting all of the information. I would strongly suggest against it. It is best to identify which universities that you're applying to, and also making a list of it and going to their specific website and seeing the information that they're giving. So not only would it be the most accurate information, it will also help you in understanding what deadlines that you are working with and how they are working on this areas. Are we clear until here? If there are any questions, do let me know. If not, I will go into the next aspect. Okay, I don't see any hands up. So
Okay. So good, Almas, you have made a very good presentation and enlightened all the students about the procedure and formalities for seeking admission abroad, and also how to select the universities depending upon the interest of the students in a particular area. So,
yeah.
and in these connections, you would like to address your queries. If anybody would like to ask anything, you feel free and ask the questions.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody questions? Please ask, sir.
Participants
If
can
not-
unmute themselves.
Yeah. Yourself and also
Participants
your
can
video.
unmute themselves and ask the questions.
Yeah.
I think we have one question.
Okay.
Galaxy A6 Plus has raised hands.
Ma'am, can you tell little about this distance education?
Yeah. So most of the universities that I have applied to usually want education in terms of like they want on-site education. You can apply for part-time courses or part-time masters, which can work as a distance learning process. Right now, due to COVID, most universities I saw were making all of the classes online. So it sort of worked like distance education. But as far as I know, there isn't anything in terms of distance learning, which is specifically required in your LLM process outside of India. I know that there are really good distance learning options within India, such as IGNOU, the Indira Gandhi National Open University, which gives good courses, and you can write the exams and get certificates. But I haven't seen something which is similar to that in terms of distance education, in terms of universities online. But that's also because they want the students to be there on campus and understand and experience all aspects of the educational environment that they can get. But you can do it through part-time learning if you want to. You can apply for a part-time course, and that requires you, for instance, in the University of Oxford, you can apply for a part-time course which allows you to be in Oxford maybe 2 or 3 months, and the rest of it you can do it from wherever you're working or wherever you're staying outside of Oxford. So that is one way in which you can do it. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So also go about in terms of application, I wanted to also tell students that it is necessary for you to start improving your profile as an applicant. And that can be done through, let me just share this, through these areas that I wanted to look into, which was through internships or work experience. It's best if you look out for different types of internships and apply for them, or different work experiences. I would definitely suggest and encourage everybody to apply to competitions, moot courts, and debates, depending on what your interests are. Definitely try for paper publications, and see also if you can do volunteer work. Yeah, so that was the last aspect that I wanted to share. Are there any other questions?
Participants can unmute themselves and ask the questions.
ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೂ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಮುನಾ, ಸಿದ್ಧಗಂಗಯ್ಯ ಅವರೇ ಮತ್ತು ಜಾಯಾ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ our members of NGO are also present, madam. So if they are if they are feeling difficulty in asking question in English,
ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೇಳಬಹುದು.
ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೇಳಿ, ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೂ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿ. ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಇದೆಯಾ ಮೇಡಮ್?
ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಇವಾಗ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟೀಸ್ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಅದು ಇವಾಗ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. because COVID cases ಮತ್ತೆ Omicron ಇಂದ increase ಆಗುವಾಗ online learning continue ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. But then again, ನೀವು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಯಾವ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅದು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು, ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಶ್ರೀಕಾಂತ್ ಅವರು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಹೌ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್. ಇನ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ಸ್, ನೀವು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ವಾಟ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಆಫ್ ಲಾ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ಇನ್. ಫಾರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್, recently there was the news that the age of consent for marriage for girls was raised from 18 to 21. So we can understand that in terms of, you, let's say you want to write an issue based on that, you want to write an article. So it's best to understand what the position of law is, what the position of law was, and the cases based on that. And then you make a summary of what you want to analyze, and you write that. And writing is a process which keeps coming the more you practice it. So if you try to write every day for an hour or half an hour, then the more you write it, the better words will flow. Matte neevu ondsati nim bardadmele, like you have to consider where you want to give it for publication. And that also depends on what types of article you're writing. If you're writing a blog piece, you can give it to different blogs on the areas, so human rights law or international law or constitutional law, or you can give it to newspapers, but then that means it shouldn't be a completely technical article, because people from even non-law backgrounds will be reading it. So in that case, you have to understand that and write for that audience. Or you can write a very technical, well-researched piece, and you can give that for publication to different research journals. So you have to first understand which area that you want to write in, what has not been written in that area, so what is your original contribution to that area. And then you also need to understand who you're writing it for. Are you writing it for a general audience? Are you writing it a short piece for practitioners and students who need to know about it? Or are you writing it to explore and expand the scholarship? So for the first general audience, you can write it in a newspaper. For the second one, for practitioners or students on a certain area of law, you can write it for blogs. If not, you can write it you can write it for research journals, where you'll be able to expand the concept of law itself.
So do you have this dissertation program in LLM also, madam? We need to write.
Most LLMs have a dissertation program. It depends ಎಷ್ಟು ನೀವು ಬರಿಬೇಕು, ಎಷ್ಟು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬರಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. It depends on each program. For instance, ನಾನು LLM ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು, it was 1 year course. So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಂಗೆ ಬರೀ 10,000 words dissertation thesis ಬರಿಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. And that's why it could be done within 1 year. So I could do it in 2 months of research. But there's also a dissertation program or a research-based LLM, which can go up to 2 years, where you have the entirety of the last semester only for your research and writing. And that is also something that you can consider. You have to very carefully consider what you want to write your research on. That can also look into, depending on what my research was. It was on business and human rights, and that means that I was also working in human rights, and it also ensured that I was conducting the research that I'm doing now is expanded upon the research that I did in my LLM. So that it's a very nice place for you to choose which area of law you want to work in, and then do the research on that. And it's also much easier for you to do the research because of the way in which you are interested in. It's not something that is forced upon you. I see there are 2 questions. One is, after completing LLM from abroad, how about career option? So it depends on what sort of career you want. It's on whether you want to come back to India and practice, whether you want to stay abroad and practice, whether you want to work in different areas. So the career options depends on which area of law. For instance, if you are interested in litigation, and I know a lot of really good lawyers in the Karnataka High Court who are from the UL's University Law College, Bangalore. And so if you're interested in litigation, then a very different aspect would be to sort concentrate on this. For instance, the University of Oxford's BCL program is very well known for bringing out the litigating lawyers and practice within that. If you want to work in outside of India, it depends on what sort of certifications you need. If you want to practice in UK or you want to practice in New York, it is necessary for you to pass those New York bar exam or the UK solicitors exam and whatnot. So you need to look into that. If you're not into practicing, if you want to work in international organizations or NGOs, then you can apply to them for an internship and about different aspects of these issues. So you can apply to UN for internships, or you can apply for fellowships. You can see which universities or organizations are giving you fellowships. So you can definitely research on which area of law you want to work in. And I would suggest that decide on which university you're going, because if you're already living there, it is easy for you to apply for internships and work opportunities rather than coming back and then also like going and applying for career options outside. Then I guess value of LLM done abroad versus LLM done in India pertaining to career options. I feel both the LLMs are equally important. There is no hierarchy of LLMs or the education that you get. We have amazing universities in India as well in terms of the education that you need, in terms of the area that you want to pursue in. It specifically depends on you and which area you want to work on. For instance, my area is discrimination law within human rights. So the faculty that I wanted to work in was in Oxford, which is why I applied to Oxford. But if your area is, let's say, somebody asked for labor law, I know that there are really good professors in NLSIU who work specifically on labor issues from a business perspective, from a human rights perspective, from a trade unions perspective. So then you can apply for those LLMs. So it's very essential for you to understand what your preference and what your interests are, and then apply for those. In terms of about labor issue, which university is best? I'm guessing labor issue, you're talking about the rights of workers, the rights of how you can apply in terms of like businesses or big businesses or corporations, how they can uphold labor issues, equal pay, equal wages. So if you're looking into that, then there is no specifically for labor, but you can apply for human rights or business and human rights courses, and this will be essential for you. So yeah,
one more question, ma'am. Does foreign universities give an opportunity to do this empirical research?
Yes. So when I was talking about the different types of LLM you can do, I was talking about how you can do a taught LLM or a research-based LLM. There are a lot of people who also take the research-based LLM, which is you bring out the research that you want to do.
Empirical research means practically going and witnessing some of the organizations.
So otherly, if you choose the research-based LLM and you choose an issue which needs empirical data, primary sources where you go and work on the data collection and make an analysis based on the data, then you can definitely choose empirical research. And if you choose the research-based LLM, they will also provide you sort of training in terms of qualitative and quantitative methods of research, and that will be useful in the research that you conduct. So it can be, for instance, I can say I want to look into Me Too cases of sexual harassment in India and how they have looked into. So you can maybe make a list of all the people that you want to give the questionnaire to, and they will do it, and then you aggregate the data and you make your research based on application of law on that. Or it can be a quantitative interview where you recognize a list of victims and you want to go and interview them, and that can be a qualitative research as well. So those would be the different kinds of research that you can do. And yes, empirical research is definitely done. That will be an interesting way to do it. Maybe you don't actually have to do it within the law course itself. And this is also something that I want to tell everyone. Your next steps need not always be an LLM or a law course. I wanted it because I wanted a specific LLM law degree so that I will be able to practice. But in terms of the research that you're going, for instance, if you're interested in social legal studies, so there'll be like Center for Social Studies. You can do it along with the history department of the university that you're applying to. If you're looking for social studies, you can look into that. So you can definitely like concentrate on these and you can work on it. So ma'am, can you please explain scope of MBL program and in which sector this MBL program deals? Masters in Business Law. So Masters in Business Law will definitely come and help in terms for your commercial decisions or commercial transactions, and it depends on the business law. So they'll come anything from company law to arbitration to mergers and acquisitions, and these are all high stake interests, and these are all of high priority in law firms that we see, and a lot of law firms work into this. So if you do an MBL, you have a very high chance of also applying to different law firms, not just in India, but also abroad, and you can work into that. You can look into that MBL programs. And the scope is quite high. It depends on what your interest is. It can range anything from just company corporate law matters to taxation to arbitration, and the law firms, most of the law firms just work on these issues, and you can definitely, there is a high scope for this. And how valued are LLMs from IGNOU and Symbiosis? IGNOU has been there for quite a while, and it has been a very accessible form of education for everyone. So I would suggest IGNOU in terms of like the name, everybody knows about IGNOU. And it is well known, and it has a very well developed distance learning program. In terms of Symbiosis, Symbiosis has some of the best teachers and the students and the opportunities. If you go through, let's say, the Legally India ranking of schools, so Symbiosis keeps coming on top in terms of the research, in terms of the students, in terms of the way they participate in like competitions and whatnot. So both of them are really good schools to apply to. Do Indians have career opportunity after completing LLM from abroad? Indians definitely do have career opportunities from after completing LLM from abroad. I'm guessing the question is asking whether you have career opportunities outside of India. In that, there are a lot of career opportunities outside of India. It depends on which sector that you're working in. For instance, if it is an international organization, then you have to apply a lot because it is quite specific to the different, to your experience, international organization, and what they're looking for. And it is very competitive because not just people from India, people from all over the world.
Whether nationality matters, madam? Whether
yeah, nationality definitely matters. It is something in which I believe Indians are a little disadvantaged, because there are a lot. For instance, when I did it from Europe, when I did my LLM from Switzerland, the first thing they saw in terms of employability was first Swiss citizens, then other EU, UK citizens who were in Switzerland, and then other countries. So that way you are disadvantaged. And even in international organizations, there are certain junior program or junior professional officers, and that is funded by each of the governments. So if there are governments like, say, Switzerland, which is funding the UN, then there are more chances for Swiss citizens to come in. This is an example. Similarly, for India needs to look more into that, and there is actually a petition going around which is asking for more inclusion by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the UN aspects. So that in that way, the nationality matters outside of India, but you can definitely get around it, because I know a lot of people who are working in the UNHCR, who are working at the UN, who are working with different aspects, who are working in research and academia. That is also one way to go about it. So these are different ways in which you can definitely consider working into this. Do Indians have career opportunities after completing LLM from abroad, whether nationality matters? Any insights on bar? So in terms of the bar examination, it is best to complete and have your bar qualification in India, because that gives you one leg up. So once you have your bar qualification in India, it is easier for you to apply for, let's say, other bars outside of India, and also applying for different other work opportunities within India. LLM in itself, I don't know if it will have any specific aspect or value to your bar qualification within India. I would suggest get the bar qualification done as soon as you graduate, so that you have that, and you write the exam and you have that in your pocket in terms of the bar qualification, because it is relatively quite easy to get the bar qualification in India, while it is not so easy outside. So for instance, France or US, it takes a year and a half for the entire process to complete. It's best if you do that in India, because they see that as an added advantage in terms of your capabilities.
Bharat Law degree, madam. What exactly this Bharat Law degree? So which?
Could you expand more on the Bharat Law degree?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you expand more? What do you mean by
no,
Bharat
actually, we heard about that Bharat Law degree. Like we heard about this degree in which Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar did its kind of a qualification, Bharat Law.
Okay, yeah. So Ambedkar did study at LSE, and then he went on to Columbia, and then he went on to do the bar at law. So this means that you have been called by the bar to practice, and this is one way in which you can get your degree. I mean, not the degree, but it's a qualification to practice. And bar at law, from what I understand, I think it was an honorary degree apart from what he did study, what Ambedkar did study. And what I'm talking about right now is, if you do want to be called to the bar in the UK, you have to there is different tests, because we didn't study, the undergrad wasn't in UK. So you have to write an exam. It's called the QLTS exam. And then based on that, you can decide whether to be a solicitor or a barrister. So although in India, there is really not that much distinction in what is a solicitor or what a barrister is, you have in UK, you have a distinction as to what a solicitor or what a barrister is. Solicitor is any person who has a law degree and they can research in law, but may not always do the research in law. So for instance, you can be, let's say, employed by Thomson Reuters, which brings out a lot of good quality legal articles, and you can be a solicitor while you're there. But you have to conduct and qualify that exam. Or you can be a barrister, which means, like in India, you have gotten your bar qualification and your bar enrollment, and you can practice law. So you can be a barrister at some chamber. So chamber is like how you have in India, you have a senior, and then under him, like there are a few advocates practicing. So that is called a chamber. And when you practice in that, you'll be a barrister. And these are the different ways in which you can be, you can practice, and that's being called like bar, being called to the bar, or being bar at law. So those are the different ways in which you can do that.
Last question. I don't know whether it is an appropriate and an inappropriate question. But the thing that it is very important to understand this doing higher studies at abroad. Is there any kind of a racial discrimination, or kind of a ethnicity, kind of an attack that we usually read about in the newspapers and all? That's really true.
So in terms of at least my experiences, one of the reasons I didn't choose to go to USA, apart from the very difficult process of application, was the heightened violences and attacks that you saw, because that was in 2017 and 2018. It was 2 years into the Trump's rule, and you saw there were a lot of violences on the basis of your race, on the basis of the way you look, and there was hyper nationalistic sentiments over there. Thankfully, though, while I was in Geneva, and while I'm here right now in the UK, there hasn't been any direct forms of discrimination. indirect forms of discrimination is something not by people, but in terms of the opportunities that you have and opportunities that you get based on your nationality. But I haven't seen any discrimination that takes place, but that could also be because the systemic response to it is quite strict. We have the universities are very careful about these sort of situations happening, so they respond to it very quickly, and they have systems in place such as Equality and Diversity Committee, which regulates and which meets regularly to talk about these issues, where you can go and complain. And apart from that, these committees also talk about give a mandatory counseling or a mandatory class in the beginning, which talks about what you say counts as racism. This counts as racism, so please be aware, because there will be complaints brought up on the basis of this. So not only is there a committee in place which looks into these aspects, but they also take a very active role in also mentioning that in taking a class for students, a compulsory class for students, which says this is racism, this is discrimination, and if you do this, you will be penalized by the college to the extent of being disbarred. So those are the ways in which, and I would honestly think that this is a great practice that we can even introduce within India to show what are the different types of discrimination from this students, because we already do that in terms of ragging. We say ragging is bad. Maybe expand that and talk about how the acts that you do can count as discrimination, and that should be very strictly dealt with by the university. I think I have another question, which is most versatile segment of law as per you, which is valued abroad as well as in India. I cannot answer that, because that depends on each person's interest as to what versatile is. I know people who are passionate about tax law and who have studied both in India and at the University of Oxford and are practicing in Bangalore on tax law. And personally, I would find it very dry. And on the same hand, my area of interest is specifically discrimination law, which others will find it very not to their interest. So it depends on your personal interest, what you feel is versatile. One good way to sort of look into it is, which will always be there in different areas of law, is constitutional law, because there is either a written or a non-written constitution in different countries that you study. So if you do like a comparative constitutional law, that will be quite versatile, and it will help you understand the ways and the reasons in which different laws come into place. So yeah, I think those are.
So what would be your suggestion for the Indian students who are aiming to do their LLM or kind of a doctoral research abroad? What would be your advice, honest advice?
I would ask people to understand what their areas of law
What are the myths and the realities? Mean to say.
Myths and realities. Myths is
continuation of Mr. Purushottam's question. I would just like to ask you, as you have stated in your presentation, that as far as quality of legal education in India compared to that in European countries is almost same. So in what way pursuing LLM or any other higher studies in other in abroad, in law schools abroad will help the students?
Okay, so I can only give you my experience as to why I chose to go abroad, and hopefully you'll be able to understand on the basis of that. The quality of education is same. The quality of education is, I would say, similar. But in terms of the research and the readings, what I've found within outside is they're very systematic. They give a list of readings, and you have to read through that, and you have to come class prepared, and you have to understand, you have to interact. So in terms of that, that is the one aspect which I like. Second aspect I would want to look into is the different opportunities it gave me. The reason I chose to do it in Geneva, even though not many people, when I say I studied in graduate institute, wouldn't know where it is or what it is. But the reason I specifically chose it is because it is well known within international law scholars and I wanted to do it specifically in international law. And the UN headquarters was 1 kilometer away from where my university was. So it gave me very easy access to go into, let's say, the Human Rights Committee meetings or the Universal Periodic Review Committee meetings, or to intern with the UN, or to look into the International Law Commission and see how the lawmaking at an international progress works, and work with the commission members there and work on that. So that was one of the biggest reasons why I chose to do it abroad, because not only would it give me a theoretical understanding of international law, which was my specialization, but it would also allow me to have a practical understanding of international law. And where better to have an international law's practical understanding than at the UN, where international law is made. So which is why when in my presentation that I did, I was talking about understanding your reasons for doing your LLM abroad. So it can't just be, I want to study at the school. There are a lot of other reasons: geographic location, work opportunities, practical opportunities, the networks that you make, the people that you meet. And that
so
is
overall good exposure and experience.
Yes, overall good exposure, because you're not going there to sit at home and just study again, because you can do that in India as well and you'll have the same experience. But you're going there for the different type of people that you meet, the environment which is diverse. Where else will you be in an environment where you are coming from, let's say 30 different nationalities, and you are all in the same process or on the same level as classmates? There is no hierarchy, and you can talk to them and you can exchange ideas. So that is one reason.
How about the cost of education, particularly the LLM is a 1-year program? How much we need to spend towards fees as well as staying and other things? Because many of our students would be interested to join in course of.
Yeah. So in terms of the cost, it is quite high depending on where you want to do your education in. Most of the costs, and this is where I talked about nationality is a disadvantage, is if you're not from, let's say, I'm giving the UK's example, if you're not a home student, then you have to give up to £24,000, which comes up to 24 lakhs per year. And which is why it is necessary for you to apply for funding or loans and see where you can look at it from. So that is just the tuition cost. And apart from that, you also have living expenses, which can come up to £1,000 a month, including rent. So that is £12,000. So you have around £36,000 a year, which is 36 lakhs. But one way you can go about it is you can get a loan or you can apply for funding, and there are different types of funding that is available, not only from the colleges, but also from outside. And you can also think about working, because right now I'm working as a teaching assistant and I'm working as a few other things, and that will help you in terms of your funding and your living expenses, and see how that will be able to help you out. So these are very important and specific aspects that you want to consider before applying. And talking about finances, you also need to look into which places you want to apply. It's easy for you to make a list of 10 colleges and try to apply to 10 colleges, but you also need to understand that to apply to these colleges, you also need an application fee, which is again like 75 to 85 pounds, which is 8,000 or 7,000 to 8,000. And that in itself is a big access barrier to education that you choose. So one way to go about it is figure out which colleges give you free application fee. For instance, QMUL, Queen Mary University of London, which is very good for arbitration and competition law, I think. It does not ask for application fee. And there are some colleges you can write to them and say you do not have the financial capacity to
Oxford apply. Is good for which specialization?
Oxford, I would say, is good for, in terms of law, is human rights has a really high agenda in terms of human rights, but it is also looking into commercial laws as well. So it has a different, the reason Oxford is different is because there is no specific faculty, but there are different teachers who are specializing in each. And if you go on the basis of that, then you have different specializations. It's very well known for human rights, IP law, and commercial laws as well. So you can look into that.
Okay, Albas, thank you. And in fact, we would like to have some MOU with Oxford University. Can you coordinate and try to
I
give
can
us
definitely,
the MOU?
I can definitely try to look into it and connect you with the necessary
So
people.
you can try to get some faculty, Oxford Faculty of Law, to address our students and faculty. And one of
Definitely.
our faculty, Dr. Jyoti Vishwanath, who is present here, just I saw her message. She was asking about the faculty exchange program.
Yeah, faculty exchange
Whether
program.
there are such programs available so that we can work out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely look into that. I know Oxford, the different departments such as the Bonavero Institute or the Oxford Human Rights Hub, they provide for visiting researcher or visiting fellowship programs where you apply for it, and if you're selected, you can come to Oxford and do your research. So I can definitely look into it and introduce you to the relevant people to have maybe a specific MOU with the ULC to
Yeah, that will be really good. And you please give your email ID and contact details so that our students who are interested to come over there can be in touch with you.
definitely.
So, Dr.
Definitely.
Jyoti Vishwanath, would you like to ask anything?
Dr. Jyoti Vishwanath, madam, you have anything to ask, madam?
No. I don't want to ask. My question, the principal sir has already asked
Okay.
about the
Thank you.
faculty exchange program. Yeah.
I got another question which said, after LLM, did you go on to work, practice, or study? So this is from Shrikant. After LLM, I came back to India and I practiced with senior advocate Jaina Kothari. I think she was also from University Law College. She also
is our alumni.
Yeah, I worked with her at the Center for Law and Policy Research, and where the litigation was mostly on the basis of human rights, caste rights, transgender rights, and gender rights. So, yeah.
Okay, Dr. NSG has also joined.
Dr.
Good.
Satish Gowda,
Would you
sir.
like to ask anything, Dr. NSG?
He's asked any information regarding.
Namaste. Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening.
So he's
Sorry,
Satish Gowda is a specialist in constitution law.
Yes, sir.
Namaste, madam. Namaste. Thanks for
Namaste, sir.
coming and informing us about the avenues in foreign universities. I have a small question. I don't know whether you have discussed this. Can I have details about postdoc for faculty members?
Sir, most of the universities, at least as far as I know, bring out postdoc positions where, especially if you're, let's say, for instance, you're interested in constitutional law and your area of interest and research is in constitutional law, most universities, they bring out specific positions throughout the year on different positions available for postdoc research. And apart from that, you can also apply to different departments or faculty that you're interested in working with to see if they have any postdoc positions available, and you can apply for that. I wouldn't be able to give you my personal experience because I haven't gone to that level of postdoc yet. I've just started my DPhil or PhD research, but I do know that there are existing and coming up fellowship or postdoc positions from each university. The one way to go about it is to go to each university and sort of look for the postdoc positions, or on LinkedIn, you can go to specific pages of the universities and follow them. So you keep getting different updates from each university so that you can apply for postdocs. And that is open to not only students, but faculty. In fact, I think they appreciate faculty having certain years of experience coming and doing postdocs, because not only are they doing the research, they're bringing their level of experience in teaching and research that they have to that post.
And thank you, madam. And one more thing is, for postdoc, I just saw through some of the notification issued by the foreign university. Some universities, they say about 6 months. Some universities, they for 1 year duration, 2 years duration. Which one is better?
So it depends on what postdoc that you want to do, because postdoc fellowships or postdoc positions are based on the grants that they have gotten. And most of the grants that they apply for then they say that they need it for, it's a project for 6 months, it's a project for 1 year, it's a project for 2 years. So depending on the grant that you've gotten and the position that they've opened, you can do it. I would suggest whichever aligns with you would work well. And there is no specific necessity in that it has to be a minimum time period that you have to do your postdoc for, because if it is something that you're interested in, and if it is something that you can add to your CV and show that I am a professor in constitutional law and I did a postdoc on this specific aspect of constitutional law for 6 months, it doesn't matter that it's 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. You just need to show that you worked on this and it was a relevant and area of law that you've contributed to. So it entirely depends on you and your circumstances.
And which place is better, whether European Union or American states in America? Which is the best place to have postdoc?
So in terms of universities, I have no preference. Some of the American ones are good, but in terms of technical requirements, I think it's difficult to get into American universities, because even if I wanted to, for instance, apply for PhD in America, I had to do a degree in America. So like either a Juris Doctorate JD degree or an LL.M degree from America for me to even apply for PhD in America. So I'm guessing it would be similar even for postdoc, because America is very closed off in its environment, where they want people who have done the degree from America to apply in America, so that they can bring all of the sort of intellectual capital that they have in America itself. So they want to keep it in America.
No, earlier, in fact, their procedure was little rigid, but nowadays they have also opened up and they are coming forward to invite the foreign students, particularly from India. So like that, many of our students have recently joined them.
Yeah.
Particularly Northeastern University in
which is why one of the thank you, sir. One of the aspects I would share with the students is very carefully consider whether you want to do an LL.M in the US, America, because that will open you up to different positions or different aspects outside if you want to continue your education within America or not. So that is one reason why you have to carefully consider whether you want to do it in America or in Europe or UK. Any other questions?
All the queries of the students, and in fact it has been a very informative and interesting session. So I hope all our students are really benefited by this presentation. Okay, all the best, and
thank you.
Yeah, we'll be in touch, and whenever you are in Bangalore, you please visit our institution.
Definitely. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, both to Vidhi Pragnya, Karnataka Legal Services, and ULC.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Principal sir. Thank you, Purushottam.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Purushottam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's our privilege, sir.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. That was an enlightening session. Also, thank you for answering all the questions and answers patiently. Now, I'd like to give a brief introduction on Shri Purushottam ji.
No, not necessary. Purushottam was our guest faculty just last year. Okay, due to his hectic schedule, he could not continue. And Purushottam, we have been already hearing ALMAS since 1.5 hours. Okay,
yes, sir.
I think you can take 2 minutes to wind up.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and close the session. 2 to 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So thank you, one and all. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much for being here. As you have discussed many of the things, so to connect with you emotionally, ಒಂದು ಮಾತಿದೆ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ದೇಶ ಸುತ್ತು ನೋಡು ಕೋಶ ಓದಿ ನೋಡು ಅಂತ. So as it's my understanding that doing pursuing higher legal studies abroad, which gives you a kind of a wisdom where you will not acquire at your native place. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಏನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಶಂಖದಿಂದ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ತೀರ್ಥ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಈಗ ನಾವು ತಿರುಪತಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಈಗ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಊರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗೋ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನ ಇದೆ, ಅದು ತಿರುಪತಿಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ವಿಲ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಅ ಸಿಗ್ನಿಫಿಕೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ವೇ what we need to understand that, see, it's all about the wisdom and the skill set. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಸೆಟ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ವಿಸ್ಡಮ್ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಂದಾಗ, ಸೊ ನಾವು ಆ ಸ್ಥಳಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಕಲ್ತಾಗ ಅದ್ರ ಮಹತ್ವ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ, ಸೊ ಐ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಒನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಹಿಯರಿಂಗ್. 1.5 hours ಆಯ್ತು. ಸೊ ಮೈ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ ಮೊಹಮ್ಮದ್ ಉಸ್ಮಾನ್ ಶೇಖ್ is also here. So I'm thankful for him, and I thank ALMAS Sheikh sir, and especially thanks to the University Law College. I always grateful for that, because every great institution becomes great only because of the persons who are involved in that. So ಈ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟೀಸ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ಬಹಳ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಯಿಂದ ನಾನು ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಈ ನಾನು ಕೇಳಿದಾಗ ಸರ್ನ ಕೇಳಿದೆ, ಏನಂತ ಕೇಳಿದೆ, ಸರ್ ನನ್ಗೊಂದು ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟಿ ಕೊಡಿ, ಅಲ್ಮಾಸ್ ಶೇಖ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಈ ತರ ಒಂದು ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ದಿಸ್ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಸಿನ್ಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಇಯರ್ಸ್. So majority of the time I always hear the queries that, sir, what next after doing LLB? So LLB admel LLM madboda, whether it is useful to do an LLM. So how about doing LLM at abroad? So these are the questions I usually address the students. So in this regard, doing LLM and doing higher legal studies at abroad, that which is being completely revealed, completely ಅದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇವತ್ತು ವಿಚಾರ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ. So I ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ, so I thank ALMAS Sheikh for really an insightful kind of a webinar, and an outstanding kind of a presentation, and outstanding kind of this information, kind of revealing to the students, and also the lecturers. Dr. Satish Gowda sir asked about the postdoctoral research programs, and also the students who have raised the question doing this career opportunities, and the opportunities, and also the issues of this racial discrimination and other kind of issues that, and regarding with the scope and the implications of doing this higher legal studies abroad. So everything is clearly and addressed. So here is the Vidhi Pragna Karnataka. It's a kind of a small initiative which helps which caters the requirements of the student community and the law fraternity, especially the advocates fraternity. So those who want to become a successful lawyer and a successful academician, here is an NGO which is being started by the grace of our senior Mohammed Usman Sheikh sir, and also the grace of our parents, the grace of Almighty. So we have started this program. So we are conducting free kind of coaching for the judicial services examination early in the morning, 6:30 to 7:30. I request all the law students to get involved in our NGO activities. We are doing academic activities, we are doing legal aid activities. So in academic activities, we are imparting this judicial coaching program for the law students, and also the lawyers, fresh law graduates who want to try to become a judge or magistrate. So we are coaching freely, and we are helping people also who are in vulnerable sections. So as such, so this NGO is evolved, and also we are doing the special lecture talk program on every Saturdays. We are trying to, the main objective of this NGO is to bring legal conscious society, to bring legal awareness in the rights of the people. As we have known that law is a weapon to win the rights of the people. So as such, we have started this initiation only to bring an enlightenment on the legal areas, especially the legal rights. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಪರಿಚಯನ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ತಂತಾನಾಗಿ ಹೋರಾಟ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, then the national development will take place automatically ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಸೊ ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಜನರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನಲ್ ಲಾ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಜನರಲ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಉಚಿತವಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ, ತರಗತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಲಾಯರ್ಸ್ ಗಳಿಗೆ, ಲಾ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳಿಗೆ, ಜುಡಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್, ಸಿವಿಲ್ ಜಡ್ಜಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್ ಜಡ್ಜಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೋಚಿಂಗ್ ನಾವು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಮತ್ತು ಬಡವರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ದಲಿತರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಮಹಿಳೆಯರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ನೊಂದ್ ಮಹಿಳೆ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅಂತವ್ರು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಒಂದು ಉಚಿತವಾದಂತ ಒಂದು ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಕಲ್ಪೇಶ್ ಎಲ್ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಗುಪ್ತಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಪ್ರೋಬೋನೋ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದವರು ನಾವು SGRC ಲಾ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಜೊತೆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅವರು ಹೇಗೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ನಾವು ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಜನಸೇವೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಅಂಡ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ಲಿ ವಿತ್ ದಿಸ್ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಲಾಯರಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದಿ ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಲ್ಮಾಸ್ ಶೇಖ್ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಎನ್ಲೈಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಜ್ಞಾನೋದಯ ಆಯ್ತು, ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ವಿಚಾರವನ್ನ ಕಲ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ I thank you very much for the wonderful opportunity given by the University Law College Bangalore University, and also the speaker Almas Sheikh and all others, Professor Suresh Nadagoda sir, who is encouraging me from the very beginning. So now I joined the college. From that instance only, he has started encouraging me by seeing my activities concerning with the imparting legal knowledge to the general public and also the students, and I thank Dr. Satish Gowda sir, who is the pioneer so in the constitutional law. So ಅವರು ಸಹ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Thank you sir, thank you very much. I am very grateful to you. So ನಾನು ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಮಾಸ್ ಶೇಖ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ, please come back to India madam, as the democratic principles, the constitutional principles of this country is being completely destroyed, and there is very much require like a human rights lawyer like you. It's a need of our today. So please come back to India and please serve our country with lot of wisdom that you have acquired in the outside India. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. See you.